Hi guys, today we're gonna talk about a very interesting topic, and it's a universal topic. I think some of you about in the future trying to go, and normally people ask, oh, you need to be someone that is known on the scenario, you need to have an indication, how does it work, how you actually can climb to professional level. This, obviously there is a bit of a skewed situation that we're gonna talk a lot of Brazilian scene, but this actually happens in every ecosystem in the world. In Korea it's a bit different because they have academy and junior teams, but America, Europe, here in Brazil, it's very similar the way someone goes from casual player, solo queue, high elo player, then competitive scene. First, we need to understand the pro scene as a whole. What makes the pro scene run? And the first important subject we should talk about is the market. Anything in the world, actually this is how the capitalist world is, so don't blame me on that. But everything in this world works with money. So competitive League of Legends and competitive overall for games is actually advertising revenue. So the companies know that if they have a competitive scene that's brimming, this will attract a lot of new players and keep old ones, because it's at the same time an amazing ad and something that keeps people excited, because human beings like to compete. And there are narratives around competitive that actually make good stories that you can use to make it richer for the game competitive. So the market look for those guys, the guys that would be interesting as players, highly skilled, and also marketable. This actually has some implications that, for example, you don't need to be the most talkative guy, the most handsome guy, but actually you can be negative on that sense, and we are gonna get there. So one of the main questions and the main subjects that go into discussion when you talk about joining pro scene is age. Nowadays, we are living an era that on League of Legends mimics competitive scene from Korea and China. And there are very specific different situations going on China, Korea, and the rest of the world. China and Korea have both, in case of China, just an explosive population with super servers, and Korea is the esport nation, so it has esports since StarCraft, so very young players start to compete soon, and the government acts very intensely with the pro scene on Korea. So it's a bit hard to compare those countries to us, but this is actually what happens. We actually, Western markets actually look at Asian market to copy and try to emulate because they have better results. But structurally, it doesn't work like that. It is even worse because if you look at it from just the cultural point of view, Asian mind, Asian hierarchy, Asian way of seeing how age affects one person is completely different from Western. For example, we know that there's a lot of social pressure on going to college, on getting a good job, and actually on going pro. So here on Western countries, we actually have more time and people are less prejudicial about that specifically. So the age restrictions, it actually works for another reason, but the essence of age restriction on Asian countries, on Korea, China, and Asian countries is tied to some cultural stuff. But even so, age can be a problem, because when you look at a pro player life as a competitive pro player, we actually have some golden years for pro players. Because going pro in competitive esports is actually very, very different than going pro in actual sports. If you are a kid on a normal sport like basketball, football, tennis, anything, you can start practicing that sport from like 5 to 8. So very young, you get like, if you have some talent, people will notice it and send you to preparation. So you're gonna be on a minor club, play some tournament, and then when you get to 14, 16, you actually go amateur or even pro. So there's a gap from 5 years old to the 14, 16 that the player actually starts to develop a competitive mindset. This is natural, okay? So this is for traditional sport, but this doesn't work for esports. Because when you look at esports, what happens is, normally the player, maybe today we have some players that actually want to go pro, like very early, but normally people start playing League of Legends with 14 at the earliest. Oh, Joko, I know someone that plays League of Legends earlier than that. Okay, but this is like average, you know? And normally they realize they are good around 15 to 16, maybe later. This is like best case scenario. So they realize they're good and they say, oh, I can be a professional. I can be pro. So there's no like development of mindset here. There is just like a lot of emotions and a lot of changes, you know? So when they go pro, their mind is not prepared for that. That's why, even if they go pro or they go academy, for example, their mind is not prepared. There's no desire since a kid that you could be a professional player, because normally the games you play change. The game you play as a kid, it's not League of Legends like 5, 6 years old. You can see that if you have like a cousin or a nephew or a brother, you know that they don't play League of Legends that early normally. So the age restriction thing happens because this is actually something that we observe on esports. I have been on more than 15 years on esports. That normally the age that the player is on his golden age is actually about 22 to 24 years old. So this is when a pro player normally is on his peak. And you can look at the famous players and see that normally it hits like this. Because normally, like I said, he started with 16. So here he has about 6 to 7 years of playing. And that makes it like eligible to, it makes the players eligible to have a competitive mind and to know themselves as a competitive player. So if the golden age is with this age, like the golden age is like 22, 24, that's why normally esport prefers a young player. Because if they get a player with, for example, 17 with a 3-year contract, they will have him through 20. Maybe they can renew him here and know if he's gonna have his golden years in the club. But they can develop him on those 3 years, you know. So this is why normally competitive, like in my view, competitive actually wants young people, because they see that they have a lot of time to develop in the right time frame to get the golden years of a pro player. Because actually age doesn't affect that much reflexes, because if you look at how CSGO players are playing with like 30 plus years, then and still like rocking and winning tournaments, I think that with time, like in time, we're gonna see that this is not a problem. Like age is not a problem, like physically, but it's a problem on the mind. Because when you get older and older and older, the burning passion you had here, that was like brimming and burning with fire, then it starts to go down. Because you get frustrated, you lose a lot, and being a pro player has a routine that it's not for everyone. So the discussion for age is that age is going to be something that if you're young, it's going to help you. If you're a bit older, it's going to be harder. But if you're good enough and has good work ethics and do everything right, and you're absolutely the best possible mechanically, maybe you can overcome the age barrier. And I think age barrier is going to be a little more manageable in the upcoming years. So about the pro scene, there's something interesting about being equal to everyone in regarding to role. I'm gonna share something with you guys, just so you guys can understand. The roles in League of Legends are actually not balanced. Because if you go and look at this website, I'm gonna go to the entire, like, all champions, all roles, all durations, all regions. If you look at the top, let's put top 10, okay? This is top 10 champions played on... Let's just look at the top 10 here. Top 10 plays, champion played on League of Legends for all situations, okay? So, from the top 10, if you look all around the world, the 5 most played champion are actually ADC. Then you have Lee Sin, a jungler, Lux, a supported mid, Graves, a jungler, then a mid, then a support. Clearly, it's not balanced because you have, like, you're not seeing any top lane. Where is the top laner? Where is the top laner here? If you look at top lane, then you go down here. The first top lane is Ambessa, the new champion. So, don't count, if you don't count her, it's Gragas. So, it's really hard to not be worried about this. And if you go about Brazil, that's like the region I play, it's almost the same. Change a bit, but it's almost the same. So, why I'm showing you that? Why I'm showing you popularity? Because if you go back to thinking, oh, if I am a top laner main, maybe I'll have better opportunities than my ADC man that has a lot of people playing the role. It's not equal to everyone. It's different. You can actually have more opportunities. Should you change your role? I don't know. It depends on you, because if you really like to play ADC, the role that people are most like, it's most coveted player most playing for, you should try. Maybe you are good enough. But if you're starting now and you can change and you just like want to be a pro player no matter what, maybe changing is good. And there are obviously the off-game qualities. When you talk about pro play, you should understand that pro players have really hard routines. They play the entire day, they have media things to do, sometimes they stream, they have to have a lot of reviews on the games. So the off-game qualities should be resilience, discipline. You have to have some social skill to deal with the team. So that those qualities are actually super interesting and are needed for the game. So this is somewhat different, because if you look at the arrow, it's actually quite obvious that someone goes from casual, solo queue, what we call tier 3, then tier 2, 1. But there's a reasoning for different boxes here. What's happening on the League of Legends scenario as a whole is that the rules are changing. In the past, we would have a clear division of solo queue, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1. For example, in Brazil, solo queue, tier 3, like small tournaments, academy, and then CBO. For Europe, we would have solo queue, European Masters, weak regions, European Master, good regions, and LEC Academy when it existed, there's exists more, and then LEC. On United States, we'd have solo queue, small tournaments in college, academy, that's now champions, I think, and tier 1. Korea, you have CK. You have like tier 3, that like small tournament, solo queue, small tournament, CK, and then actually LCK. So every single region has a similar thing. But the leaps are very hard to do. Like the first leap is the hardest. The first 2 leaps are the hardest ones to do. Nowadays, tier 2 and tier 1 competitive is very close, because we don't have obligatory academy on any region. So actually, tier 2 became very close to tier 1 because tier 1 has less teams now on the world since Riot Politics striked. So you're actually playing very close to tier 1, very, very close. And this is a leap that's hard, that's why I separated the boxes like this. And most of the time on your career, you're gonna be on a place that you're gonna be paid less, have a lot of pressure, and you have to fight to make the next step. So be prepared on that, because it's not easy. Like the career, the way it works, it's not linear. I'm gonna just talk about the linear part, then I'll go back here. So when you are playing, you try to think that you are like this. Like, if I keep putting up the effort on time, I'm gonna get better and I'm gonna improve and I'm gonna like always get bigger opportunities. And that's not a bad way of thinking, but don't think about it in a linear way, you know? Because sometimes you put the work and you won't see results. Or maybe you still be on tier 3. Or maybe you can't get a team even though you are getting better. It's because the results are not linear. Sometimes you're gonna be worse in your solo queue and have less elo and less match and less placements on solo queue. Or sometimes you're gonna be stuck on tier 3 and see that you are getting worse and your team is having bad results. But then if you keep putting the work, you're gonna get better. So it depends a lot on opportunities. And we are gonna talk about that in detail right now. But competitive is not like normal life that you can go to school, then college, then postgraduate, then go to work, being an apprentice, then full-time, then director, then owner. It's not like a clear way, you know. You have to take the few opportunities that may rise when they rise, and you should be prepared. So to be prepared for that, the first thing you should do, in my opinion, is setting up some social media, because nowadays players are actually intended to have social media, and I don't want you to be like a social media genius. No. Just set it up, because if there is, when you do this jump from solo queue to tier 3 and tier 3 to tier 2, people are gonna look up your name on social media, Facebook, Twitter, mainly Twitter and Instagram. And if you have some of these, maybe YouTube too, TikTok, who knows, if you have those up, they can actually see that at least you care. And sometimes you're gonna have some plays there and some stream, and even if no one watches, it is there. And it's video proof that you are not a cheater, and it's video proof that you are actually good. So if I see someone that seems promising, I want to see more of them. See if they actually can be someone that we should give a chance in competitive. So that's why it's very important that you have actually video proof, even if no one is watching your stream, even if no one is watching your YouTube plays or Twitter plays, just post them. And sometime in the future they can be nice. Solo queue behavior is also a nice preparation, because as you grow in solo queue, Grandmaster, Challenger, then it gets even more toxic, and sometimes you're gonna want to talk back and to fight. And toxic players tend to have less chances in competitive than non-toxic players, because no one wants to live 24/7 with a toxic player. No one wants to be champions with a toxic player. This is like life. No one wants to be near toxic people. So be mindful of your behavior on solo queue. Consistent rank up is something that you should think. If you're reading this, if you are listening to this and you are not challenger and you want to go competitive and you don't like to play solo queue, I have bad news for you. Most of the players in the world, the good players, play solo queue. And if you can't reach challenger, there's going to be a choice between someone that can hit challenger and you that is master. And both have zero solo queue, zero competitive experience, just solo queue. Then why wouldn't I choose the challenger one? There's also the opportunity windows. Now for next year, for 2025, we're going to have 2 seasons, season 1 and 2. But actually, this is normal. Actually have like, since the beginning of League of Legends, as a competitive game, we actually had 2 windows, the first and the second window. Normally, the first window is going to be the December-January window, and the second window will be June, July, September. So those windows are important because the teams will have money to actually invest on new players on those 2 windows, and normally they don't invest in the rest of the year because the tournaments are ongoing. So if you are turning pro, if you're going for tier 3 to tier 1, to tier 2 or tier 2 to tier 1, actually the most important one is the first window, because the first window is when you get like a bigger planning and you have more money to do it. Second window, June and July, is normally a window of adjustment. So it can actually be picked up by a team or picked up by a better team, but not that reliable. First window, super reliable. The chances of you getting picked up, if you deserve it, if the opportunity is good for you, are very, very likely compared to any other time in the year. So that's why you should plan at least 1 year ahead. Like, plan to be fair, like tier 3 or tier 2 or solo queue and you want to go tier 3. Think about it. Oh, I need to be really good by December, January, because that's when the pickups happen. So plan with 1 year ahead with this mindset. And if it comes, it's your time, because improving is the ultimate goal, like I said. So you should be prepared for when the opportunity arises. So you should be as visible as possible, especially for the time windows that really matter, especially the first one at the beginning of the year. And in the case you get a contract, congratulations. Avoid extremely high contracts in time high contracts. So avoid extremely high time contracts, like very long contracts, because tier 3, tier 2, you don't want to be like stuck in a team because it changes too much. You should go for high time contracts on tier 1, but that's a story for another time. And the standards are yours. You compete with yourself. So set your standards, set your routine as a pro player before being, because if you really want to be a pro player, this is the thing I want to be most in my life, then already start thinking and acting like a pro player, and trust me, this is gonna change the way you view everything.